All right, everyone. The GOP's attempt to fix healthcare is dying as we speak. With Heller jumping ship, it's no longer clear that it can pass. And Trump has come out and reaffirmed what he said before, which is, oh, well, I think that they should be more generous in the Senate. I think the current healthcare bill is mean. What happens to the GOP? Just speculating here. If the Senate, pounds out its bill, works with the House, it gets passed through the House and Senate, and it gets to Trump's desk, and he says, well, I don't think this will work, and so he vetoes it. What happens if Trump vetoes the healthcare legislation that was crafted primarily by the GOP Senate? What would be the fallout from such a thing? I think it would be quite significant. It would be essentially Trump slapping his cock in the face of the GOP once again. He did this with Ryan Care. He said, well, I don't really think I can support this because it was a bad idea. If for no other thing that he's doing right now, Trump is actually in the right on this as opposed to the neoconservatives within the GOP. The current healthcare bill, at least the framework we know of, the cuts it makes are draconian. That's a problem. It's probably not going to get more people insured, which is a strategic problem. You can argue over the morality of it, based on your stance of whether the government should or should not be in healthcare. It wouldn't be popular, though. It would cause the GOP to lose millions of... The Rust Belt probably wouldn't maintain its redness in 2020. Trump probably knows this. I think his natural inclination would be to veto the bill if it passed in its current form. And he'd be wise to do so. He should call it McConnell Care, like he did with the early wave of what was going to be Trump Care, was turned over to Paul Ryan, essentially. Rand and all of the other sane Republicans were shoved to the side. So Paul Ryan got his way with the original health care bill. And it became known as Ryan Care more than Trump Care, because Trump very visibly came out and said, I don't think it's workable in its current form. It's probably not going to pass anyway. And lo and behold, it gets killed. He should do the same with the Senate's version of the AHCA that's currently going through. He should label it McConnell Care, say, I'm sorry, Mitch, I can't support it in its current form. I know Trump, it's weird, because he said, on the one hand, well, I'm going to target, like, Rand Paul, try to get him on board with the bill, maybe throw a few bones his way. I don't, by the way, think that's likely to happen. But then he also calls the bill mean and spurns it. I think Trump's sort of trying to take both sides of the issue. If the bill that gets hammered out is actually workable, if they alter their bill further so that it wouldn't be so unpopular and it would be a working fix, he can say, well, I support it. I said, I'll get Rand Paul on board and stuff. And I would like to take credit for this wonderful bill. If it goes sour, if McConnell keeps having his way with it, essentially screwing it into the ground, then Trump could say, well, I told you it was mean. I'm not going to support it in its present form because I care about the American people. It's sort of one of those no-lose scenarios Trump tends to actually concoct. What would probably, though, be a better idea for Trump is to let this bill fail. Don't pass it. Make it clear in its current form it's unworkable. Next time, get Rand Paul and some of the other sane GOP members to craft their own bill and put your support behind it, and then browbeat the Republican Party into supporting it. Rand knows what he's doing. I supported Rand Paul originally. When I jumped off the Gary Johnson bus very early on, I said, oh, I hope Rand, actually it was pre-Johnson, sorry. Early on in the campaign, I was hoping Rand Paul would be the Republican nominee. And for a very brief moment, it looked like there was a vague possibility he could do so. It was always a 1 in 100 shot. Trump shot to the top, Rand collapsed, and it was clear he wouldn't be the nominee. At that point, Trump became the sane GOP candidate, as opposed to Rubio, who I think somebody mentioned, they linked me, I didn't take a look at the link yet, that Rubio was trying to make some sort of bill against hate speech or something like that, as though it would ever pass, as though his fellow Republicans or even half the Democrats would vote for it because it's coming from Marco Rubio. You've got Ted Cruz, who's basically an evangelical and also ineligible due to being born in Canada and holding dual citizenship. You've got Jeb Bush, who speaks for himself as far as why he's not a viable candidate. Who else was there? Ben Carson, yes, who made like $100 million off of his campaign and was basically a showman the entire time. He just stood to the side and looked pretty for the cameras and pretended to be half asleep, and became very popular. How telling is it that one of the more popular GOP candidates was the person who said as little as possible, did as little as possible, and didn't do anything but fundraise the whole time. And he was one of the more popular GOP candidates. He eclipsed Jeb, he eclipsed Rubio. Then you've got someone who's not even eligible. He was like the second-tier candidate, Ted Cruz. And then Donald Trump, who has no political experience, ends up being the winner and becoming the next president of the United States. I still claim, and this includes Trump in this total, that Rand Paul is the most sane Republican. I still claim that. And if Trump is willing to work with him, put him forth, put him before the cameras, put him before the American people. He has youth appeal. He's on the younger side. He's popular among his constituents. He's also popular among many different blocs within the GOP. Maybe not the never-Trumpers because he endorsed Trump. But he's got support among evangelicals, the libertarian-leaning side. He's got third-party support. If he had become the candidate, Gary Johnson would have pulled in less than 1% in most of these states. Rand Paul, whether people within the Republican Party like it or not, is sort of the face of the new resurgent Republican Party. Trump and Rand Paul are the figures of that movement, nobody else. And I think that if he were more visible, and that if it didn't look, because Rand has a tendency to grandstand, so when you deny him a slot, as far as participating in the crafting of such a bill, Rand's going to go ahead and he's going to go before the camera and say, oh, well, they won't let me read the bill. They won't let me have a part in designing the bill. I have to stand against it because I'm not going to be Pelosi'd again or something like that. And he's a master at doing this. Now, part of that is him being like feisty and fidgety, and some people like that. I do. Some people really get turned off by it, and they say, oh, well, he's being sort of, I don't know, bullying, or he's being stubborn. Why should he close partisan ranks on a bill that's likely to decline the support of the GOP? Here's the problem with the Republican Party, and it has been a problem for a while. They love to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. They get their mandate. It's like with the Tea Party. They gain the House. What do? Absolutely nothing but stonewalling. They do basically nothing for 6 years. They get their president. They've got control of the Senate. They've got control of the House. They've got control of a near supermajority of state legislatures. They have more governors now than before. They've swept the Democratic Party aside completely. And what have they accomplished so far? Part of this is they're stonewalling their own presidential figure. Part of it is they're ignoring the people who gave the GOP more vibrancy in the first place, people like Rand or Amash, who are part of a different Republican breed, who are less enamored to old moral policing. Instead, they cling to the McCain travesty of neoconservatism. We'll give corporations welfare. I'm sure if Trump actually tries to get a tax plan through, they'll try to hijack that as well. You'll have all the McCains and Lindsey Grahams crawling all over it. They did this with his proposed budget before. Oh, you can't cut this agency or that agency or this bureaucracy. You can't lower taxes. Oh, those are sacred cows, like the GOP. Oh, we're going to have small taxes and limited government. And then they can't find anything that they want to cut from the government. So what's the point of even bothering to elect these people if they're not going to do the job that they said they wanted to do? You've got a mandate. You in fact have control of the House and the Senate, and the president is a Republican. And you're not doing anything. It eerily resembles, this is a worry for me. What the Republicans are doing right now eerily resembles the first 2 years of Obama, when he also had the legislature at his disposal. The Democrats ran the House and Senate. It eerily is reminiscent of that period of time, where Obama could have fulfilled half of his campaign promises. He had a mandate to do so. He had congressional support. And the only saving grace, I think, for the Republicans right now is that in the coming midterms, the chances of the Democrats taking anything back are slim to none. That's because of the structure of what races are up, how many races are up, and the fact that the Democratic Party is equally self-strangulating at the moment. It's like I weighed in on Twitter with regards to the alt-right and the alt-right fighting one another over this DC rally bullcrap. The only saving grace for their movements is that there's really no Democrat to oppose them at the moment because they don't even have a leader. That's the only reason that they're going to be able to trudge along and keep growing for a little while. Yeah, and lo and behold, in the future, that might not continue to be the case. They might end up re-solidifying around some banner to fight the next left-wing boogeyman. But then again, the Democrats might revert to classical liberalism because of an overhaul of their own party. By the way, if they do that, if they actually adopt a pro-liberty platform and get rid of some of the, oh, we need more laws against unkind speech, we need more laws to tax and regulate everything into the ground, you might see a lot of younger people whose current inclination is to be part of the new right, jumping ship to a new left, as opposed to the alt-left, which is like the social justice warriors. You get all these weird, confusing terms. As far as healthcare is concerned, though, this is like, the GOP is shooting itself in the foot over and over. They get Ryan Care. It fails. Okay, well then, this time we'll get it right, and now they have McConnell Care, and they're not getting it right. Try Rand Care. Get Rand Paul and Donald Trump into a room together, and have them personally hammer something out and submit it to the House. And then let it go through, and then pass it. And then have Trump lean on the Senate and say, don't alter it any further. It's a working bill. Screw off. Give me this, and then I'll give you something down the road. You pitch some proposals to me, and we'll negotiate. That's sort of his job. He was elected to negotiate largely with members of his own party. That's who he has to work with, the Republicans, and has more problems with that than with the Democrats. The Democrats are sitting there doing nothing. They're not doing anything right now. They're not even trying to select a leader. They get Perez in there to head the DNC. When's the last time you even heard anything about Perez? He doesn't say anything. He doesn't do anything. The main standard bearer of the Democratic Party right now is Nancy Pelosi, who still sits behind a veil in a cloak and tries to pretend that she's not there. That's the Democratic Party. They've been totally morally defeated. And I think they're going to stay morally defeated well into the midterms. All these special elections are just demoralizing them further. It's an advantage that the GOP has, but it has to get its act together. It needs. There are several things the GOP should do. The first step is start hammering out something on healthcare that actually works, which means you need to ignore people like Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell. I know that they largely run their segments of the party, the House and the Senate, but Trump needs to put more weight on them. That's number one. Number two, get a tax plan going. If you have to negotiate with the neocons, go ahead and do so. You might be able to negotiate with a few sane Democrats, though, instead. I don't know if Trump has considered the possibility, but he might actually be able to work with the Democrats more than with the never-Trumpers within his own party, and get most Republicans plus a few Democrats together and pass a tax plan that would actually work for the country. He wants infrastructure spending. The Democrats will love that. They'll vote for it. They'll let you cut taxes on the middle class if you give them that. And it's not like the sane Republicans will stand in your way. They don't want to run against Donald Trump in the midterm elections. Half of these people, they can't really maneuver. They can't do anything about it because they realize, oh yeah, Trump is popular in my state. You know, it was 20 points in the red, so I'd better work with Donald Trump on this, give him 90% of what he wants, and just hope for a little bit of pork barrel spending. Number three would be the Republicans really do need to, at some point, fund the wall. It is necessary because that was a core proposal that Trump made. Doesn't really matter what form it takes. It's a solar wall, it's a fence, whatever, as long as it looks like you're doing something to solve the border problem. I prefer that it be pragmatic and that it actually work, but as long as it looks like it might work, people will ease up off you as long as the construction begins. Just, you know, replace those hideous sections of wall we've got now that don't even apparently really work with something that at least looks halfway decent. Even if that's all you can do for the meantime, at least it looks like you're doing something, and that's going to count for a lot of people. You know, Trump himself is being stonewalled primarily by his own party. And it's roughly equivalent to people who, at this point, are on the new right somewhere. They're libertarian, and they reject the left because of moral policing. They're alt-right, alt-light, whatever the hell they happen to be. They primarily face flack from other people who are on the right, self-proclaimed, as if from different categories of the new right, as opposed to people on the left. The left just leaves them alone. The left cannibalizes itself at this point, too. We've devolved into chaos in the Western world. We've got a weird situation now where you remember, like, back during the Obama era or the Clinton era, the Bush era, the left and right, they would squabble. They would pick at each other constantly. It was on the corporate media. It was on the alt media. It was online. Everyone was fighting one another. Will we be liberal? Will we be conservative? Or whatever the hell it happens to be. As though those terms had much meaning. Now we've gotten to the point where right-wingers attack one another primarily. Left-wingers attack themselves primarily. You've even got, like, libertarians do the same thing. Are you a Johnsonian, like a more open border libertarian? Are you like an ANCAP? Are you just generally small government? Do you lean towards constitutionalism? The constitutionalists and libertarians, despite being like 90% the same, they were fighting each other during the election. The Green Party leftists fighting with progressive like Bernie fans. The Bernie fans squabbling with Clinton fans. You have Trump's fans squabbling with Ted Cruz fans. You know, after the general election has already begun. It's just a freak show. This is the state of U.S. politics right now. It's happening. It's starting to spread to Europe now, too. You've got people who, ideologically speaking, are more similar than they are different, attacking one another, trying to maneuver into positions of power. It's part of the paradigm shift. With the establishment dying, all these smaller movements smell blood. They're circling like sharks in the water. But in order to get to that giant pile of rotting chum, they have to fight one another off first, I suppose. This is also the same effect that's causing what we saw yesterday between Cernovich and Richard Spencer on Twitter in regards to the free speech / anti-political violence rallies that we saw. I'll probably make a separate video on that topic later. You know, right now there are other things to do. I've got to make another video as well later, definitely. That's about all. Peace out.